One of my favorite types of YouTube videos are travelogue videos. Seeing interesting locations and experiences all from the comfort of my own couch. So I decided to make my own travelogue video for my recent trip to Washington, D.C. because it was the first time I'd been back in 25 years. And because it's a travelogue video, how hard can it be? Well, here's one example. Every video has that obligatory shot out the window of the airplane as it takes off. So here's mine. Yep, and the next 11 minutes of the video are nothing but the underside of my airplane seat.
I'm old, I'm puzzled, and I'm only able to change one of those.
Two main problems with me doing this type of video. Firstly, I'm a photographer at heart, so I always think of taking a still photograph before shooting video. And secondly, those videos have something that I hate to do, and that's talking unscripted directly into the camera. I really hate doing that. I really hate doing that. I flew from Toronto's Pearson International Airport down to Washington's Reagan National Airport on an Air Canada CRJ 900. I used a bunch of my Air Canada points and upgraded myself to business class. And that gave me access to the Maple Leaf Lounge, where I took exactly 0 photographs or videos. It was a clear night, so I snapped this picture of Toronto at night. But I knew that because we were flying from the north to the south, and I was on the left side of the plane, I would get an excellent video of the White House, the Capitol, the Lincoln and Washington memorials all lit up at night. And I'm sure the people on the right side of the plane had that, because it turns out we landed from the south. So all I got was a nice video of the city of Alexandria at night. Over the next 2 days, I explored the Smithsonian museums and the memorials along the mall. From the Lincoln Memorial to the MLK Memorial. Oh hey, I remembered to take a video here. The White House, the Washington Monument, and the World War II Memorial with their Wall of Remembrance. Each star represents 100 dead or missing Americans from World War II. There are 4,048 stars. The Museum of American History contains everything from a statue of a half-naked George Washington to a piece of the Berlin Wall. And in the Pop Culture Hall, everything from R2-D2 and C-3PO to Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy to Dorothy's ruby red slippers. The President's Hall has the seal of the President of the United States and the hat that Lincoln wore on the night he was assassinated at Ford's Theater. Their display on presidential impeachments was being redesigned because, as the sign says, history happens. One place I was really looking forward to seeing was the Air and Space Museum, but I didn't realize they now have a system where you have to book your tickets for a specific time ahead of time online. Luckily, I was able to book a ticket for 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon. But when I got there about 20 minutes early, there's a huge lineup of people waiting to get in. Lots of interesting things in there, like the Wright Flyer, a Neil Armstrong spacesuit. But I should warn anyone who's planning on going there in the summer of 2024 that half the museum is closed for renovations. After a day of sightseeing, I went back to my hotel room and got dressed for dinner. I hate getting dressed up because it always reminds me of the old Garfield cartoon of Garfield wearing a sweater. Yep, meatball and traction sort of sums me up. I snapped this picture on the way to the restaurant in front of the U.S. Capitol building. The main reason I was in Washington was that I had received an invitation to a meet and greet for Patreon supporters of a couple of podcasts that I like to listen to. The woman standing beside me is Dr. Allison Gill, podcaster and CEO of the MSW Media Network. From left to right in the picture is Pete Struck former FBI agent, best-selling author, and co-host with Allison on the podcast Clean Up on Aisle 45. Next to him is Andrew McCabe, former Deputy Director of the FBI, best-selling author, and co-host with Allison on the podcast Jack, a special counsel podcast. On the other side of Allison is Metro Police Department Officer Daniel Hodges, who was one of the defenders of the Capitol building on January 6, 2021. And Glenn Kirshner, retired federal prosecutor and presenter of the Justice Matters YouTube channel. It was a wonderful evening, and I snapped this picture on the way back in front of the U.S. Capitol building with the full moon up in the sky. I had only one thing planned for Sunday, and that was going to the Spy Museum. I've always loved espionage stories, both fiction and non-fiction, and I wanted to go to this museum ever since it opened. When you enter the museum, you're given an RFID card, and you can use it at a series of computer monitors where they give you a covert mission. My mission was to meet up with a spy in Rio. I don't remember my cover name, but my cover identity was supposed to be me as a personal trainer from Reykjavik, Iceland. Because you look at me, and the first thing you think of is Icelandic personal trainer. The only picture I took in the museum was of an Enigma machine. Out in the front lobby of the museum is James Bond's Aston Martin DB5 on permanent display. But up until April 2025, the museum is also hosting a special display of the cars from all of the James Bond movies, called Bond in Motion. And the collection includes the AMC Hornet from The Man with the Golden Gun, the BMW from Tomorrow Never Dies, the Tuk-Tuk from Octopussy, and the Aston Martin DBS that's destroyed in Quantum of Solace, among other vehicles. All in all, it's a really fun and interesting museum. I headed back to the airport and had a wonderful flight back to Toronto. Well, once the flight attendant retrieved my iPhone from underneath my seat. We arrived in Toronto just as the sun was setting and had an amazing view of the city, including the former Downsview Airport, which, at 370 acres, is scheduled to become North America's largest urban redevelopment project. Back in 1985, just after I graduated college, I lived and worked in Etobicoke, and it was such a nice evening. I could even identify the office building at the corner of Bloor and Islington in Etobicoke, where I worked. I used to look out of that window on the 16th floor and wonder what my future held. I definitely didn't see myself in my 60s making YouTube videos. And a perfect landing capped off the end of a great weekend. And of course, some of you are wondering, what about Juno? Well, don't worry. I had a cat sitter come in and feed her every day. After her first visit, she sent me this photograph of a very pissed off Juno, wondering who the hell she was and where the hell I was. And she told me that she didn't even see Juno on the next 2 visits. I have an app on my phone that allows me to set up another phone as a remote motion detecting camera. So at least I was able to see that she was eating the food that was left. When I got home, she made it very loud and clear to me that she was not happy with me, and all the next day made sure I didn't go anywhere by pinning me down. When I was in Washington, I kept my eye out for a Washington-themed jigsaw puzzle, and luckily I found this one at the aptly named Prose and Politics bookstore, along with the Celebrity Cat puzzle that I completed a couple of videos ago. It's published by the New York Puzzle Company, and it seems like a great little puzzle. My only comment is that I found one piece with the tab broken off. So let's do this.
So thanks for watching the video. Also in the comments is a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page if you'd like to support this channel. And subscribe to this channel to see what other nonsense I can get up to. Because, you know, I'm old, I'm bored, and I'm only able to change one of those.